Hi everyone, today I'm going to walk you through one of the AZ104 projects that I've recommended. This is actually something that I accomplished when I was a sysadmin, and it definitely gave me the opportunity to prove to my higher ups that, hey, I'm really interested in this cloud stuff. I can automate things. Yeah, this is a simple, straightforward task, but it's only the beginning. And then I got promoted to cloud engineer after that, after several projects. And yeah, the rest is history, right? So yeah, let's get started. The project that I am talking about is we'll go to GitHub projects, github.com/made by GPS/projects. And if you click on 104, it is all right, scroll down, you see onboard automator. And essentially what it is somehow some kind of event triggers Azure Active Directory to create a user, assign it to appropriate group, and send an email saying, hey, this user has been created. I'm going to keep this as high level and as non-specific to my environment as possible. That way, later on, you can improve it on your own. Alrighty. Links to everything that I mentioned will be in the description, so be sure to check that out. First thing we're going to do is head into Logic Apps. Logic Apps is one of my favorite Azure services. It is so capable. I'm going to create a new resource group, and I'm just going to call this onboarder-resource group. Select your right subscription, the onboarder is what I'm going to call it. And that name exists. Awesome. If it doesn't exist, you'll get an X and then you'll have to provide some other name. The important part here is to select consumption here, because that means you're only going to be paid for when it runs, and you don't have to have some upfront cost or some monthly cost that's going to be the same or whatever it is. For larger companies with thousands and thousands of users, maybe that might not be the best case. But for, someone who's labbing at home or small companies, I think consumption is the way to go. All right, so as the Logic App is created, it right away puts you into the Logic App Designer. And we have to start it off with a trigger. And we're going to select when an HTTP request is received. I know in the projects it says, as an example, SharePoint or email, but I think those connectors require a work or a school account, which I know a lot of people don't have. So we're going to use this HTTP request trigger, and this actually give you some programming experience, kind of 204 experience, right? What we need to is just Bing search JSON to JSON schema converter. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to write some JSON. I'm going to say first name, and I'm going to say Gwyneth. And essentially, you're just going to write what kind of JSON you would expect to be sent to your Logic App. And I'm going to say last name and say Pena here, right? And then when you click here, generate, it's going to describe this JSON for you and create the schema. The schema is the format of the JSON that you will expect to receive at your Logic App. So this is why it says here request body JSON schema. I'm going to paste this in here. Oh, this is wrong. Awesome. And I kept it very simple. Just the first name and last name. Most likely you're going to need, like phone number, email, all that kind of stuff. So, be as detailed as you'd like for that. And then I'm going to hit save and copy this URL that gets generated for you. You can get it later, actually, but we're going to need that in a second. So now that our trigger has been provided, now we can say, okay, what are we going to do when this Logic App runs? Okay, so we're going to create a new Azure Active Directory user, and we're going to scroll down. Actually, step back here. I have it here because I recently used it, but you can probably just search Azure AD and it'll pop up for you. And select the AD icon, Azure AD, and then here we're going to scroll down and find create user. And it's going to ask you to sign in. So I know some people were getting stuck here. Make sure you sign in with your UPN, not with your email address. So hold on, I'm going to sign in first. Okay, once you sign in, you're going to see this screen now instead of what you were seeing before. But the UPN is the user principal name here. This is what you're going to need to sign in, not with your email address. If you sign in with your email address, it's going to say there's no Active Directory assigned to this. It's because it's not. It's assigned to an Azure UPN. Okay. So now we have the create user, and it's asking us for a bunch of parameters. Obviously, the ones with an asterisk means that you have to provide them. So account enabled, yes, once it's created. Now, the cool part of Logic Apps is every time there's an action, sometimes the action can create an output for us. So, and we can use that output as the input of other actions, right? So display name, well, I want the display name to be the first name. And then I want it to be a space and a last name. Actually, I don't think I can do space. I think I'm going to have to do something called concat, which if you click on the expressions on the right side, you have a bunch of expressions here that you can use. There's like math expressions, conversions, things like that. Concat stands for concatenate, meaning add two texts together. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to say, we're going to do the first name, and then we're going to have a comma there, and then we're going to have a space, empty space there, and then another comma, and then we're going to do how do I move this out of the way? Move out of the way. Last name here. And then that's what we want here. Hide. Move this. How do I move this? Okay, fine. Okay, there we go. Okay. So it's essentially something that will put the first name and last name together, right? With a space for the display name. The mail nickname, I just want it to be the first name, and we can just select first name here. And these values are coming in from that JSON schema. Pretty neat, huh? Password, I'm just going to create a temp password static. You should not do this. You should provide a dynamic password to have it generate. You can use one of those expressions to do a random password there. And the user principal name is going to be the first name. Actually, we're going to need to do a cat here as well because we have to add the domain. Because the user principal is the first part, which essentially is like a username, which some people use first name, last name, first name dot last name, first initial and last name, or whatever. So I'm going to just use first name. I'm going to click first name, and then I'm going to add my domain here, which is everything after the @ Oh, we have to add an @ here too, but everything after the @ So if yours like Contoso, you would probably be like @contoso.onmicrosoft.com, something like that, right? Okay, and everything else is pretty fine. Again, I'm keeping this very, very high level. We're going to hit save here. Two more things I want to do. Back into Azure Active Directory, I want to add the user to a group because I already have groups that have access to specific resources. And I need to get the group ID and then the user ID. So the user ID is pretty easy because it's created from this last user. And remember from this last action, remember I mentioned that actions provide output sometimes. And it looks like this one provide an ID for us, which we can click on, and then it'll be that ID here. The group ID is something that I need to go and get. So give me 1 second. Okay, I've provided the user group, and I have essentially a devs and an admins group for part of my Azure Active Directory, and I assign the proper roles and permissions depending on the group, right? So the last thing we can probably do is send an email saying, hey, this user was created. And there's an Outlook one, there's a Gmail too, but I just use Outlook. And I'm going to say send an email, I think, or create an email, send an email here. And I have to sign in. And in here, you will sign in with your Outlook email, because when you create users in Azure Active Directory, if you're just labbing at home, you're probably not assigning them licenses for 365. It wouldn't make any sense. I don't. So if you try to sign in with that, like the UPN that you did to sign into Azure Active Directory connector, you're going to get an issue because there's no license assigned there. We can just say user created. And then for the body, I can just say, sometimes you won't see any output here from the previous actions that are appropriate for here, but you can just create, actually select see more and then grab one of these here that works for you. So in my case, I can just say something like display name was created. And this display name is what we grabbed on create user, right? Well, was generated in create user. I don't really know why this connector doesn't think that this is an appropriate type of, what we would want to put in the body, but hey, you click see more and you see it there too. And then you just have to put in the email address that you want to send the email to. Now I'm going to hit save. If you have any errors, this is not going to save. You're going to see something here, but no errors here. So we're going to go back to click on the onboarder. And then here as well, every time it runs, it's going to have an update here. As we can see here, I don't have any, I have three users, But now what I can do is go back to my Logic app and grab the URL from that HTTP receives request. Request is received. And then we can go to VS Code and use one of my favorite extensions, which is called Thunder Client. You need something that can send requests, HTTP requests. Close the designer. Oh, what happened here? Back here. Go to Logic App Designer. And we want no. Hold on. I keep making this mistake. The onboarder, and we want to go to overview. Stay in overview, okay? Because this is where we'll be able to see run histories. VS Code, and we're going to hit new request. This is called Thunder Client. You can install this as an extension in VS Code. And what I'm going to do now is click, new request, and then just set this to post and put in that URL that you were given. And then here we have to provide the JSON. So the first name of my new user is going to be, let's make it Zoe, because that's my cat. Well, one of my cats. And then my last name is going to be Pena, and then hit send. You should get a 202 accepted as long as your JSON matches the schema that you provided. In our case, of course, it matches. So we'll see what happens now. We're going to hit refresh, and we see we have our first execution right now, obviously, 10:30. And if we go to users and then we hit refresh, we should see that user being created for us right here, right? So now I'm going to try to sign in as this user. All right, type in the UPN here, portal.azure.com in the UPN, of course. And then I think I set this to a temp password, right? Let me see if I remember it. Cool, then we set a new password. And we set the new password. We should be able to move forward, maybe later, and we have access to Azure here. Now, this group already has access to a function app here. But if I were to go to, I don't know, I have a bunch of other function apps, right? We'll add something here. We'll just say add reader access to this group. So devs, and hit review and assign. And now everyone who's part of the devs group has reader access to the get visitor counter. So that means when I go in here, I should be able to see it as well. Sometimes it takes a moment or so. Sometimes you need to refresh the entire page. No? All right, come on. I know this is how it works. I've done this like a million times. Like, come on. Just got to refresh it a couple of times. Well, let's give it a little bit more time. While I wait for that, let's see if the email has arrived. And look at that. We got an email. Zoe Pena was created. User created. Awesome. So that part of the automation is working. And one last time, we'll hit refresh. And there we go. We now have access to that. Alrighty. That is a very quick and high-level overview of how to accomplish this task. And yeah, make it smoother, cleaner, make it more involved, make it more detailed. But this is pretty much how you would accomplish that project. Let me know which guide through you would like for which project in the comments. And the one that gets commented the most, seems to be the most popular, is the one I will build for you. All right. Bye, everyone. Have a fantastic rest of your day.